All right, welcome to session 0. What's everyone playing? So I have always wanted to play a Harengon character, and I can't wait to fit it in your world. Oof. Yeah, sorry about that. Harengon actually don't exist in this world. Oh, well, I really wanted to play a fathomless warlock. Will there be lots of lakes and rivers and oceans around? Actually, the setting is in the desert, so you can still be one, just don't expect any water around. Oh, well, good thing I want to play a wizard then. They're good in any terrain. Absolutely, except in this world it's post-apocalyptic and there's no written language anymore, so just don't expect a lot of spells to put in your spellbook. So, we ready to play? Hello Acolytes! Welcome to the Cleric Corner. My name is Riker, and here we talk about all things Dungeons & Dragons, tapping into our higher powers to create worlds more unique and stories more impactful. Now the intro, I admit, is not a common situation, at least I hope so. But from what I've seen in the D&D community, DMs normally have their world fleshed out before session 0 and before the players make their characters. The players make their characters depending on the world that the DM presents. However, there is a less common way of building your world with your players and after your players have created their character. Their characters informing the world that you build. In this video, I will go over the pros and cons for both and why I use the one that I use. But let's look at world first. Before you even start the game, even before you have interested players, you may have built out an entirely homebrew world to play D&D in. You have continents, cities, places of interest, and even the BBEG. Everything is ready for a game. And while you wait, you may even go back now and then to change a few things here and there. When you eventually do find players, you tell them about the world as far as they should know, and then they make characters to fit it. There are many pros to doing it this way. First of all, you have all the time in the world to create a world. You only play when you feel ready, and you may be much more confident going into a game knowing the ins and outs of the world that you built. You feel prepared for wherever the players decide to go. When the players create their characters, they have good guidelines and inspiration from your world too. They know what the parameters and limits they have and can work within them. With the cons, however, the players do have limits, and there may be a few things that your world doesn't allow that could inhibit some creative minds, as I played out in the intro. And even though it may not happen very often, the players are still kept out of most of the creative process. It is less collaborative doing it this way. Just as a tip, DMs should always leave enough rooms in their games that even though there isn't rabbit folk in your world, figure out why there is one for your player. Something else I see a lot from prepping in advance is that their world is never quite ready. It's perfectly fine being nervous about starting a game, especially if you haven't DM'd before, but sometimes the stress about not being as prepared as you want to be will keep you from playing, getting practice, or ever getting better. So I will tell you right now, it is ready. Call up your friends, play this weekend. It's ready. Besides, even with your players making characters according to the world, there can still be such a small portion of it that the players will actually interact with that much of your prep can and will go to waste. But I guess on the pro side of that is that you do have a continuation of a world for another game. Perhaps you find more players after the game is done and put them in the same world, and that's pretty nice. You might find some players that are excited about a world that others have played in, but you also might find players who would want an unexplored world or one to make their own. Now let's look at characters first. Now doing the inverse, another way to start a campaign is getting together with people who do want to play, and then at session 0, you talk about what kind of campaign that everyone does want to play. Do they want to play a seafaring campaign? Maybe one set in the Underdark? Do they want to play with a war going on that they can interact with? Or would they prefer magical diseases or an ecological collapse? The players and the DMs talk about a campaign that everyone is excited for. Then the players make characters and backstories that might fit in a seafaring adventure with ecological pirates. Now all of a sudden, you are not the only one creating the world anymore. You don't have to do all the creative work, and in most cases, the players will be ecstatic to be a part of it. When the players come up with something that they want to play with, or add something to their backstory, there isn't any reason to say no, because the world hasn't even been created yet. And within character creation, the seeds of the world start. The players can also easily collaborate and figure out how they possibly know each other, or where or what they want to start out doing. If you want, you can continue to ask questions to see what kind of things they want to see in the world. They might mention a volcano made of glass that one of the players heard in a storybook, or a noble family that has been accused of being changelings, another player being a castle worker. The players are still inspired with character ideas by the setting that you decided on, but are not limited to the walls already in place. And among the biggest pro for this kind of world building is that it becomes the player's world. You as a DM still get to iron out the details and add your own spin to have fun with it. You are still part of the vote when it comes to the world you built together, and I can never stress enough that DM's fun matters just as much as any other player. But by creating a world that revolves around the characters, the players will feel that the story revolves around them. It isn't a story, it's their story. Once you know what each of the characters are, you can flesh out their backstories in the world, connect them in unique ways, and tie them all into a possible BBEG that they will all be invested in at the start. You don't have to worry about taking their motivations and convincing them the BBEG you made is someone that they have to fight. You made the BBEG based on their motivations. In contrast, it may be a little bit more difficult trying to tie in their backstories to an already fleshed out world, even having to change things around to fit them anyways. Some maybe obvious cons to this would be that you are on a bit of a time crunch. You may not feel as prepared going in, and you may only have a week or two to flesh out the rest of the world before session 1. For this, I recommend 3 things. 1, if you want, continue to world build with your players helping. There are many things in the world that you are in now that you know. It makes sense that the characters might know a lot about their world. The more heads involved, the faster the world comes about. And now the players know exactly where they want to go and what they want to explore more, making the DM job easier for you. 2, if you need it, let your players know that you just need another week or 2. Just be sure that it isn't too long of a time before the players lose investment or interest. And number 3, who says that you need to create the entire world? Just make the first town that they are in and prep as you go. Few people know this, but Matthew Mercer and the cast of Critical Role started their campaign with just a town. He did not flesh out the rest of Exandria for weeks or months into the game. He even admits to continue to do so now. But another con would be from games that are not consistent. If you struggle with players that come consistently or even have players leave a few sessions in, having a world or maybe even an entire arc planned for this character now can't be played. And of course, you can't expect yourself to start a new world and a new game every time that you recycle half your players for whatever reason. That would be exhausting. And one thing we do not want is DM burnout. But to me personally, I do this method. I allow the players to create their characters first and keep world building as a collaborative effort. To me, creativity is the best when it is shared. And there is so much more that you can do with multiple creative minds offering their perspective and insight. To me, players are way more invested in a world that they helped create and are thus more consistent usually. But here is what I recommend for you, as it may be different. For tables who are less consistent with players and for newer DMs, world build first. Have something concrete you are confident about so when players do come in, you can jump in and have fun. Because at the end of the day, you're playing D&D and D&D is fun. If you have consistent players and have more experience under your belt, I recommend character building first. You can create a world everyone is excited about and tie in the characters for a more narratively rich story, as well as possibly nurture some other future DMs by promoting their creativity. Stretch your own DM capabilities while networking ideas to improve your own methods. But which method do you use? Was there any pros and cons that I missed? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. While you're world building, if you want to explore some unique settings you haven't heard before, like diesel punk, solar punk, or stone punk, make sure to check out this video out next or check out the first issue of my monthly magazine all about world building and character inspiration, linked to my website in the description. But in the meantime, go out there and spread the good word of D&D and make the world a better place, both on and off your tables. See you in the next one.